Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another video. This time we will be ranking every season and notable arc from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. So the 6 arcs that I am going to be looking at are Duelist Kingdom, Battle City, the Virtual World, Noah's Arc, Waking the Dragons, which is Season 4, the Kaiba Core Grand Prix, which kicks off Season 5, and then Dawn of the Duel, which I know is an English dub term that combines the Pharaoh's Memories arc as well as the Ceremonial Battle at the end, but I'm just going to be looking at that as one whole arc. So to me, a notable arc needs to be at least 10 episodes, which is the reason why I am analyzing Noah's Virtual World and the Kaiba Core Grand Prix, but leaving out the arcs like the Dungeon Dice Monsters and the Legendary Heroes arc. Those arcs were a little too short for me to analyze, but if you want to analyze them down below and leave your rankings, which I hope you do, regardless, in the comment section, feel more free to do that. But these are the 6 arcs that I will be personally analyzing and ranking. I will be giving my favorite duel from each arc as well as my least favorite duel really quickly, and I will also be giving who I thought was the MVP of the arc. This video was requested by my Egyptian God tier patron Syn Cloud, so a big thank you to him for being a great supporter of the channel and for requesting this video. I do plan to do this for every single show, but of course we are going to start with the original. No better place to start. So without further ado, let's begin. Every season and notable arc from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters ranked. I hope you guys leave your thoughts down below, and I hope you all enjoy. Coming in last is my least favorite arc, the Virtual World arc, or sometimes referred to as Noah's Arc, which formally kicks off Season 3. This is one of the few anime-exclusive arcs and was completely absent in the manga. The arc runs from episode 98 all the way to episode 121. Even though this is my least favorite arc of the show, it doesn't mean I thought it was a horrible arc by any means, but the real problem I have was how horrifically placed it was in the story. Battle City had so much incredible momentum, and instead of showing us the highly anticipated semifinals and finals, you interrupt it with this arc? Really? That alone is one of the reasons why this arc I think gets such a bad rap, and I think it is a very fair point. Furthermore, the whole season just kind of felt off to me. None of the duels really stood out, maybe besides the final ones, and that could very well be because I had no interest in any of the big 5. These 5 clowns are pretty much the primary villains of this arc, and are trying to get back to the real world by hijacking Yugi and his friends' bodies. And because this is Yu-Gi-Oh!, the only way to take control of the bodies of Yugi and his friends are by defeating them in a duel. Not only is the premise of an adult man stealing the body of a teenager weird, but I just didn't find any member or motivator of the Big 5 to be interesting. I felt they did a very minimal job in terms of building up these characters. Instead of getting a big backstory on a lot of them, we were shown that they were shrewd and heartless big businessmen, and we were supposed to hate them. While I actually enjoyed Noah Kaiba's character a lot, he really didn't get personally involved until he dueled Seto towards the end of the arc. So pretty much all of the Big 5 duels were just kind of mediocre, and they also lasted a long time because of the amount of dialogue that was in these duels. It's almost like you could tell they were just trying to extend this arc for as long as humanly possible, and it affected the quality of the early duels. To speak from a more positive perspective, it did have a pretty unforeseen twist when one of the Big 5 members actually defeats Tristan and is able to take over his body. We then see a possessed Tristan take on Yugi and Joey, which was a pretty cool duel. The Noah versus Seto and Yugi duel was enjoyable, and seeing Noah and Gozabora's story end was pretty well done and very symbolic, despite Noah being an anime-exclusive character. The big feature of this arc was that of deck masters. Each character had to pick a card to represent them as their deck master. Each master had a special ability that could be used throughout the duel. The duelists could also summon their deck master for free if they choose to do so. However, if the deck master is destroyed, they automatically lose the duel, regardless of how many life points they have left. I actually liked this concept a lot. I thought it was a really unique and interesting twist on the duels that made every duel a little more unpredictable, since we didn't know what each monster's deck master ability was until they used it. Unfortunately, this concept couldn't save the dull Big 5 and the minimalist character development it added to the main characters and story. As for my favorite duel, it would have to be Noah versus Kaiba and Yugi, beating out Kaiba versus Gozaburo just by a smidge. My least favorite duel was probably Yugi versus Gansley, which unnecessarily lasted for 3 episodes. I know the duel was supposed to ease us into the deckmaster concept, but this duel was just so stretched out. The MVP of this arc had to be Seto Kaiba. Learning more about his past, actually choosing family over winning a duel when he versed Noah, and then finally putting his own demons to rest by defeating his father and Exodia all at once was awesome to see. It was actually a really solid arc for Kaiba's character, but a pretty bland arc for everyone else, in my opinion. Coming in 5th is the Kaiba Core Grand Prix, which kicked off Season 5. Just when you thought we were done with tournaments, in came this anime-exclusive arc. This mini-arc is definitely on the short side, as it only spans from episodes 185 to 198, but since it's over 10 episodes, I felt it qualified for this list. The premise of this tournament is that it's being hosted by Kaiba Core, and the winner will have a chance to face Yugimoto, the king of games. I actually did like that aspect of it, because at this point we've seen Yugi win Duelist Kingdom, he won Battle City, so I think having him sit out of this tournament gave other characters, new and old, an opportunity to shine on the dueling stage. This arc introduced us to the Schroeder family, comprised of Siegfried and his younger brother Leon. These two characters I thought were pretty enjoyable, as Siegfried was trying to destroy Kaiba Corp as revenge for allegedly stealing his holographic dueling technology. The only problem I had with this arc is that the threat level seemed so minimal compared to the threats that this crew had faced up to this point. I still believe that to this day, the original series has collectively the best group of villains in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Pegasus was a joy, as were Bakura and Marek. Heck, even Noah and Darts brought a level of fear and imminent doom. However, this arc really lacked that. The only thing evil that was taking place was a character we were just introduced to, trying to infect the Kaiba Core computers with a virus. We have already seen the Kaiba family specifically threatened when Noah did it in Season 3, and that threat was much greater and led to way more development for Kaiba and even Mokuba than this arc did. The reason I have this in front of that arc was because of the overall dueling quality. Might be an unpopular opinion, but I thought this arc had some of the most fun and unpredictable duels of the season. I vividly remember thinking that Joey was 100% going to win and finally get his match against Yugi. However, Joey shockingly loses to Siegfried in the quarterfinals, which I remember being shocked about. On top of that, Siegfried's OTK against Weevil and Rex is one of the most underrated turns in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. Siegfried, to me, is the MVP of this arc, not only for that glorious OTK, but for defeating Joey and for having a really awesome Valkyrie deck. Probably the weakest MVP out of all of these arcs, but again, the arc was on the shorter side in comparison to the other ones. Kaiba vs. Siegfried was extremely enjoyable as well, and in my opinion was the greatest duel of this arc. My least favorite was probably Vivian vs. Rebecca, which was pretty much the only duel that I have no recollection of from this season, so I think that says all it has to. I wish there was a greater threat when it came to this arc, but again, if you only have 14 episodes to execute ideas and build up brand new characters, the storyline is always going to be a little shoddy. Regardless, the Kaiba Core Grand Prix is the 5th greatest arc in Duel Monsters. This is probably going to be the most talked about placement in the comments section, and honestly I think it should be. Coming in 4th out of 6th is the Waking the Dragons arc, otherwise known as the Doma arc, which took place for the entirety of Season 4. I've been in this community for quite a long time, and not many topics divide fans like Season 4 does. Some fans of the show absolutely love it and consider it the best arc from the show, and for others it completely misses the mark and they find it to be a typical filler arc. Season 4 was technically a filler arc, as none of these Seal of Orichalcos related events transpired in the manga. So, I will give this season the credit that it deserves, before I touch on why it's lower on my rankings and why I had a few issues with it. This arc did a great job at developing characters. Sometimes filler arcs add nothing to a character, but that was not the case for this arc at all. Seeing Yugi and Atem get separated and Atem having to grow as an individual without Yugi in order to have a chance to save Yugi was a joy to watch, and the adventure that the crew embarks on is a really cool change of pace. The real highlight of this arc was how well Doma was done. Raphael, Valen, and Alistair all had really amazingly done backstories that made the viewers care about them. It also made the viewer that much more angry at Darts when you realize that all of the turmoil these guys went through was because of him. We have two classic scenes that will live in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Hall of Fame probably forever, which is the Draw Monsticardo scene when Atem's anger and rage boils over against Weevil, as well as the scene when Atem actually loses to Raphael. Who the heck saw that coming? This arc did do a lot right, and for that I do commend it. But here is one of my problems with this arc, and maybe it's not this arc's fault. I have always felt like this arc really hurt the effectiveness of the final season. The final season is all about Yugi and Atem getting split up. It's about them dueling each other in the ceremonial battle. These are all supposed to be major events that take place during the end of the season and show, but I felt that this season kind of ruined the emotional payoff that those moments were supposed to have, since we already had spent an entire season focusing on the split up of these two and seeing them duel. Moreover, the whole narrative of this season changed the entire origin of Yu-Gi-Oh! After brilliantly covering Marek's narrative and his connection to the past of Atem, they pretty much changed the origin story in this season. Up until now, we were supposed to believe that Yu-Gi-Oh! Came from from ancient Egypt. This season then goes off and talks about how the game existed 10,000 years ago in Atlantis of all places, and that it's older than ancient Egypt. What? We lost the constant theme of the Millennium items and of the Yami no games and of the Shadow Realm if you were watching the dub, and now we have this card in the Seal of Orichalcos that can steal souls, and all of a sudden, the power of the Millennium items, the power of dark games, were completely swept to the side. A lot of the themes that made Yu-Gi-Oh! Really enjoyable up until Season 4 were just tossed by the wayside and forgotten about. On top of that, Darts did not do it for me at all. I know he orchestrated a lot of what happened with Raphael and the others, but I like villains who duel and get involved a little more in the action. Darts just stayed back until the final duel, where he was of course defeated. The 3 new legendary dragon monsters kind of felt like the god cards, except not as powerful. However, with all of that said, I do understand the appeal of this arc, and had this been maybe an OVA or a movie, I think I would have enjoyed it quite a bit. It just seemed very out of place, and at times the characters acted in ways that they never acted in before or after this arc took place, which made it kind of hard to watch and understand at times. There were some great duels and new characters, my favorite duel being Yugi versus Raphael, the first match. Shock result, good back and forth action, loved it. My least favorite duel was probably Atem versus Gurimo. Much like the Virtual World arc, I was not a fan of the first duel, which is probably because they were using it as an opportunity to show off the Seal of Orichalcos mechanism. The MVP of Season 4 is without a doubt Raphael. I was so invested in his story from start to finish. He actually got a win against the Pharaoh. He saw the error of his ways and redeemed himself before the seal took his soul. Heck, he even tried to confront Darts and take him down himself, but failed. His backstory was touching and sombering, and he as a character was not only a bright spot from Season 4, but a bright spot from the show as a whole. So there you have it, my overall thoughts on Season 4. I 100% understand why people love this season, and completely respect that opinion. It just overall did not do it for me. It ranks 4th out of 6th on my list. Coming in third, taking the bronze, is the Dawn of the Duel arc. This combines the Memory World arc and the Ceremonial Battle, basically the entirety of the show after the Kaiba Corp Grand Prix comes to an end. I know this is a dub-only time span of the story, but again, I felt it was appropriate since the Ceremonial Battle arc is only like 4 episodes, and I wanted to include it on this list. This arc lasts from episodes 199 until the end of the show, episode 224. This is the arc that we finally get to see Bakura shine. He had yet to serve as a main antagonist, even though we knew it was only a matter of time before that would happen. Seeing Bakura's past and why he hates the Pharaoh, as well as learning more about the importance of the Millennium items, was really cool to watch. Learning about the origin characters for the Dark Magician Girl, and Blue Eyes White Dragon was such a treat as well, and this arc did a really great job at filling in the missing pieces and making everything connected, as the final arc for any show should do. The non-dueling battles made this conclusion arc very unique. Seeing Blue Eyes Ultimate, Exodia, the Egyptian god cards going toe-to-toe with Zork was, I thought, really cool. As for the standard duels, there really was only one before the final duel, and I thought it was a really, really well done duel. Seeing how far Yugi has come was exemplified no better than him being able to take on Bakura and defeat him in a really tricky duel. The only reason this arc isn't higher for me is because at times it felt kind of dragged out. I know they changed a few things from the manga when they animated this arc, and at times I felt an episode would go by and not much of interest would happen. Other episodes, especially near the end, were loaded with action. And then we have the Ceremonial Battle. I'm not going to talk too much about it. It's an epic duel and a great, painfully sad way to conclude the show. Yugi versus Atem is my favorite duel from the arc, my least favorite being by default the Kaiba versus Bakura duel. I had no problem with it, it's just there are only 3 formal duels in this 25 episode span to pick from. MVP is Yugi. He finally steps out of the shadow of Atem and becomes his own person. A lonely, innocent kid when the show starts becomes a confident, strong character that not only saved the Pharaoh and the world times over, but learned the importance of friendship and believing in yourself even when things seem hopeless. Dawn of the Duel ranks 3rd for me on this list. Coming in 2nd place is Duelist Kingdom. Duelist Kingdom is considered to be the first 40 episodes of the show, and it's an arc that I truly do love. Now, I know the big complaint with this arc is that there are pretty much no rules. A lot of stuff happens during the duels that would never happen in the real game or in the anime after the original. For those that don't know, this is because when Duelist Kingdom was airing, the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Really wasn't a thing in the real world, and the game didn't have a formal set of rules. The Duelist Kingdom arc in the manga began in 1998. The game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not a thing until until 1999. So, when Kazuki Takahashi was writing this arc, he didn't have a formal hard set of rules to follow when writing. Therefore, Yugi attacking the moon and all of these other impossible rule-breaking things weren't breaking any rules at all at the time of production. Still, I do understand why that irks people when they look back at Duelist Kingdom. For me, though, who is a more casual Yu-Gi-Oh player, I really love the unpredictable nature a lot of these duels have. You never know when one of the duelists is going to do some crazy, unnatural combo that is just going to change the tide of a duel entirely. I also loved the story this arc told. Pegasus still to this day is one of my favorite antagonists from Yu-Gi-Oh, and I think a good villain is always key to a memorable arc. The powers of his Millennium Eye were displayed to us in a truly terrifying way, and seeing him make quick work of Seto Kaiba was the moment where a lot of fans thought, oh shoot, this guy is going to be impossible to defeat. Of course, Yugi does in an epic duel. This arc also laid the groundwork for a lot of other characters to get development and interact with the main cast. Mai, Rex, Keith, Bakura, Weevil. Tournament arcs, when done right, are a great way to introduce us to a lot of characters and give them personalities, which I felt Duelist Kingdom did pretty well. There were also a lot of really fun and enjoyable duels throughout this arc. My favorite duel from DK would have to be Yugi versus Pegasus. My least favorite duel was probably Joey versus Mai. I felt the duel was really too quick, and while it was cool to see Joey in his first duel, I have always thought it was a little lackluster, with Mai versus Taya being a close second. The MVP of Duelist Kingdom is none other than Maximilian Pegasus, the man who orchestrates everything, kidnaps Yugi's grandfather, hosts the tournament, kidnaps Mokuba to force Seto Kaiba to participate. He was the perfect villain to pick to demonstrate the power of the items and to explain dark games. And at the end of the day, he really wasn't truly evil. He was doing everything to try and revive his lover, and can you really blame him for that? Yeah, he probably went a little too far. Either way, Duelist Kingdom takes the runner-up spot on this list. The best arc from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Is none other than Battle City. Yes, it's a cliche pick, and one that most people would probably put up here as well, but the reason it's viewed so highly is because it's just a really good arc. Another tournament, which can definitely be reason for criticism, Battle City does everything from a dueling aspect that Duelist Kingdom failed to do. The rules are much more concrete and much more closer to the actual game than the practically non-existent rules in Duelist Kingdom. You have to tribute monsters, you start with 4,000 life points as compared to 2,000. It's looked much more favorably upon than Duelist Kingdom by fans who want actual duels that resemble the real game. A lot of the characters that were in Duelist Kingdom also appear in Battle City. Joey duels pretty much everyone who Yugi defeated, Weevil and Mako to name a couple. Even though there were some overlapping characters, the arc did a good job to expand on them. We learned to hate Weevil more as a person, we learned more about Mako and his past, and while that was cool, this arc really shines because of the villain, Marek Ishtar. Marek enlists the help of his rare hunters to try and defeat Yugi. Strings, Pandora, the Exodia Hunter are all really memorable characters and help set the dreadful tone of Battle City as a whole. They set the stage perfectly for the appearance of Yami Marek, because when this dude shows up, things get very, very dreadful. Marek is, in my opinion, the greatest villain we have had in Yu-Gi-Oh!, and he did a masterful job in elevating the stakes of this arc behind the scenes in the beginning, and then in the flesh towards the second half. Also, this was the first time that we learned and got to witness the almighty strength of the Egyptian god cards, Obelisk, Ra, and Slifer, which are arguably the most popular and well-known cards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle City was just a perfect storm. Interesting characters, awesome new cards, memorable duels, a terrific villain with a great and understandable backstory, and it is the greatest arc in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. It also includes Yugi versus Seto Kaiba in the semifinals, which is not only my favorite duel from the arc, but is also my favorite duel in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. This arc really does not have any bad duels, but if I had to pick one, I would say the Bones versus Bakura and the Joey versus Espa duels didn't really stick out to me. Not bad duels, but a little below the notch for all the other high-octane ones this arc had to offer. The MVP of Battle City might surprise some, but I actually am going to give it to Joey. We see Joey's development as a duelist and a character really greatly in this arc. He defeats skilled duelists like Weevil and Mako, and even outlasts Odeon in a great 28-turn gauntlet. His amazing moment from this arc had to have been when he dueled Marek. Not only did he survive Ra's attack, but he was even able to summon Gearfried and had Marek beaten. Unfortunately, we all know how that ended, but Joey's performance in Battle City, and then maybe even defeating Yugi after the tournament, maybe, is everything that is special about Yu-Gi-Oh! Marek is, of course, a close second because he was a treat to watch the entire arc. Battle City is truly a fun, a truly memorable, and a truly well-done arc, and in my opinion, it is the greatest arc from Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. And that about wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed my rankings of all the seasons and notable arcs from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! And I really hope you guys leave your rankings down below. If you want to include Dungeon Dice Monsters and the Legendary Heroes arcs, you're more than welcome to. I'm very excited to hear from all of you in the comment section. Remember, this is all my opinion. Whether you agree or disagree, I do hope you enjoyed the video. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Alexa Baker, Glen McGookin, Jorge Carrillo, James Rose, and Omni Lord, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Bouldergeist, Odd Eyes Vaughn, and Jesse Wood, and to my Egyptian God tier patron, Syn Cloud. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon. I cannot tell you how much it helps me out and allows me to make content for you guys. And thank you to everyone who just watches my videos, because without you guys, I 100% would not be able to do this. So I will talk to you down below. Really looking forward to seeing how you rank all of these arcs, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your opinions on anything Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Thank you so much for watching. Check out my channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, and I hope you have an amazing day.